Hello everyone, welcome back to Read for Comprehension session with me Somojit. And in today's session we are going to read one of the MIT Press articles. The name of the article, as you can see in front of your screen, is When Cities Treated Cars as Dangerous Intruders. So this I am hoping is gonna be a good article, okay, a good read. And before going into the article, before starting to read this article, I always like to say this thing. The only benefit that you guys will gather from these articles is that if you start reading yourself also. So you're reading with me. Now your task is that you start reading on your own, which is effectively, you can, if you like this article, you can go and probably do a Wikipedia search or something of that sort that literally marks the beginning of something. Okay, you can read this article also. If possible, I'll if you want me to link the link the article somewhere, you can probably ask me also. I'll try to do it in the comment section. If not possible, you can always type in Google that when cities treated cars as dangerous intruders and MIT Press Reader, you'll get the article. Okay, so these articles are not something exclusive to my collection, so they're freely available in the internet. Also, one fun fact before I start, I'll just take a few more seconds, is that Arts and Letters Daily, if you haven't subscribed to Arts and Letters Daily, go ahead, do subscribe to their newsletter. They will send you these articles, so you don't have to scavenge articles over the net. Okay, having said that, we will proceed to the article. Okay, now everybody who has a laptop, it is recommended that you watch this video on a laptop. If you don't have a laptop, probably the most important point for you would be to maybe go to a Brave browser or something if you're using a mobile phone. So use a Brave browser, listen to this video as a podcast, and in one of your other tabs, probably open this article, and you can read the article and you can listen to it in a Brave browser ka YouTube this thing. If you don't have a YouTube subscription and all, if you have a YouTube subscription, that's like anything, right? So let's delve into this article. I hope you enjoyed the article. Okay, I am excited after reading the name and everything else. But before that, let me see if I can squeeze the article a little bit. I have, as I mentioned, I have a extension by the name Just Read. So let me see if it can work. Okay, so forget about the extension. Okay, it'll just I tried it, it'll not work anyways. So we'll start this article. Okay, and we start from this point. Today it is a commonplace that automobile represent freedom. Okay, obviously all of us probably have automobiles in front of us. If we don't have a vehicle, probably we have traveled in a vehicle, maybe a carpool or something. So basically it represents freedom. But to many Americans in the 1920s, the car and its driver were tyrants that deprived others of their freedom. So they're talking about 1920s, remember that. Then this is fairly early of our time. Okay, the car and before other auto promoters, Charles Hayes saw that industry leaders had to reshape the traffic safety debate. So this person, Charles Hayes, he is the person who is supposed he's the person who is doing all of that. Okay, behind the maybe the menace that these guys are creating. So this is I am not assuming, I am just taking some clues, some hints from the passage, because the passage basically talks about it, right? So now it says that Hayes, the president of Chicago Motor Club, warned his friend. Now see what I did. President of Chicago Motor Clubs, and then it is written Hayes warned his friend. So I would not read Hayes. Okay, I just probably skip his name again and again. But the moment I'm reading, I know it's it is talking about Hayes. I'll not read it. So he warned his friends that bad publicity over traffic casualties could soon lead to legislation that will hedge the operation of automobiles with almost unbearable restrictions. So probably he is somebody who does not want restriction to be imposed on the automobile sector because of the bad publicity that is going around. The solution was to persuade the city people that the streets are made for vehicles to run upon. Okay, So basically he want to take a diplomatic route. So in the first paragraph, if you have to break down the first paragraph into just one line, it would be Charles Hayes is looking for a diplomatic way to influence or manipulate the city people that, hey, look, roads are for the drivers, for the riders, and maybe you guys can leave us be. And he's also telling his friends. And who are these friends? I think these are the friends of the Chicago Motor Club, right? So these are the friends, right? Now we go to the next paragraph. Okay, pedestrians would have to assume more responsibility for their own safety. So this is something which is very contradictory, that if you are, let's say you're walking on the streets, okay, so your safety is in your own hand. Okay, it's a very it's a stereotypical, as well as it's a very morose statement to make, but then again they're using it anyways. So but how? Okay, where they had been tried, legal regulations alone had been ineffective. From 1915, cities tried marking crosswalks with painted lines, but most pedestrians ignored them. A Kansas City safety expert reported that when police tried to keep them out of the roadway, pedestrians, many of them women, would demand that police stand aside. In one case, he reported women use their parasols on the policemen. Police relaxed the enforcement. Basically what they're saying is ki they did tried to regulate the pedestrians, so that the drivers or the riders can do their bizarre act of whatever they were doing. Okay, and that basically was causing a bit of a harassment to these city pedestrians. But the pedestrians also were like, we will do our own thing. And some of the women, they started they involved in verbal grunts with probably the police enforcement officers, and that actually resulted in the police to relax the enforcement. Okay, and what was the enforcement? If you have to, so probably if I am a RC, let's say if I am somebody who's designing an RC question, and I want to design a question which is a fact-based question, I can probably ask you that what is that enforcement that the police were after. So probably the answer to that would be, I hope you guys have guessed it, the answer to that would be that they were looking for painted crosswalks for the pedestrians, and they were like, nahi bhai, we will walk in the roads, what's the point? Okay, now we come to the third paragraph. Okay, let's see the third paragraph. What does it say? City people saw the car not just as a menace to life and limb, but also as an aggressor upon their time honored right to city streets. Okay, the pedestrians, explained a Brooklyn man, as an American citizen naturally resents any intrusion upon his prior constitutional right. Custom and Anglo-American legal traditional confirmed pedestrians inalienable rights to the street. In Chicago in 26, as in most cities, nothing in the law prohibits a pedestrian. So this is a law of 1926. Okay, nothing in the law prohibits a pedestrian from using any part of the roadway or any street highway at any time or at any place as he may desire. So noted the author of a traffic survey commissioned by the Chicago Association of Commerce, according to Connecticut's first motor vehicle commissioner, Robin Stockel, the most restrictive interpretation of the pedestrian right was that all travelers have equal rights on the highway no matter what. So this is somebody who is the vehicle commissioner, motor vehicle commissioner of Connecticut. Okay, Robin Stockel. We don't really need the names and all that, but then what he said, that the most restrictive interpretation of pedestrians right was that all travelers have equal rights on the highway. Nobody is superior, so nobody is inferior. And okay, now let's see what kind of arguments were coming from the opposite side. Okay, so one argument is the one who was saying that we are totally the pedestrians were totally going through a lot of menace because of this nonsensical bike or motor vehicle riders. What about the other half? Let's see. Okay, so let me, yeah. Conversely, the motorist claimed to ride in the street. Let's see if I can. Okay. Conversely, the motorists' claim to ride in the streets at the expense of pedestrians was very hard to make. By law and by custom, all had a right to the street, and none could use it to the detriment of others' right. So what they are saying is that everybody has a right, so might as well we also have the right. Okay. In 1930, the New York Court of Appeal observed that it was common knowledge that the great size and weight of automobile could make them a most serious danger, and so the responsibility for preserving the safety of the street lay overwhelmingly with motorists. In New York City's traffic court of 23, a judge explained that nobody has any inherent right to run an automobile at all. Rather than the courts have held that the right to operate a motor vehicle is a privilege given by the state, not a right. It's a privilege that is given by the state, and a privilege that may be hedged about with whatever limitation the state feels to be necessary, or it may be withdrawn entirely. So now the authorities are talking about that just because you have got a vehicle doesn't mean that it is your right. It is a kind of a privilege that has been levied on the motorist by the state. Okay. The law would not deprive pedestrians of their customary rights so that motorists could roam at will in the cities. Okay, so one way of looking at this is that even the Justice Department is also saying the same thing, that we are not going to give, or we are not even concerned about we are also very much concerned about the pedestrians. It's not the motorist only who has the so-called rights what they were mentioning, right? Now we'll come to the fourth paragraph. By custom, the street had always been free to all. The law had intervened only in the name of safety and equity. Equity could demand, for example, that no one obstruct the roadway with standing vehicle. Yet fast and dangerous automobiles imperiled pedestrians' traditional right. Imperiled, basically, they throw them into some fear or something. Imperiled. Let me take you to the one. Just a second. Yep. So automobiles imperiled pedestrians' traditional right. It did not make sense to most of the city people to protect the pedestrian. So what they're saying is, let me read this line a little slowly so that you can understand it. It did not make any sense, or rather it did not make sense to most city people to protect the pedestrian majority by curtailing this right and turning the pavement over to motorists. A Philadelphia newspaper editor reproached motorists usurping basically मतलब कि dethrone करना, ठीक है, और तख्त पलट करना, या you understand the thing, right? So a Philadelphia newspaper editor reproached motorists for usurping pedestrians' rights by passing standing streetcars and preventing pedestrians from crossing the street. So this is a newspaper editor reproach the motorists so basically what he has done. So this newspaper editor reproached the motorist by usurping pedestrian rights by passing standing streetcars and preventing the pedestrian from. So basically he's reproaching that why have you done it or something of that sort, right? Reader's letter to St. Louis Star expressed pedestrian indignation as motorist intrusion upon their right. One letter signed by pedestrian complained that the pedestrian is forced to submit to the tyranny of the automobilist. Other letter writer urged the pedestrian to organize to defend their claims to the street. It may be necessary to organize an anti-automobile league, wrote one. The time is ripe for the common people and pedestrian to organize, wrote another. We must all pull together, wrote a third, and insist on our rights to use the street until auto hogs, basically the ones who are, basically the scums of the streets, so wake up to the fact that they cannot do as they please and monopolize the street. So basically all of them are writing to the newspaper saying that we should start an uprising against the motorists who are in a way or the other hijacking the life of the pedestrians. Okay, how things have changed in America. I think after almost 100 years, has things changed? I don't think so. I think the pedestrians are anyways more brutalized than ever, and the death ratios, if we talk about the death ratios which has happened, it's a completely another ball game altogether. Now we'll read the 5th paragraph which talks about this. Now you see, a very interesting thing, whenever I read, I always mention the paragraph, so you will always see whenever you are reading also, just a second, so whenever you are reading also, you will always have the paragraph in front of you. Okay, so this much paragraph in front of you, you might as well read this much only. Okay, yeah, and try to connect the paragraphs. Okay, so what did the first paragraph say, what did the second paragraph say, what did the third paragraph say, what did the fourth paragraph say, and what did the 5th paragraph say? You do not have to remember everything, but is there a chain of thoughts that you have? Okay, so the first paragraph started with the discussion that life is not that easy with the motorist for the pedestrians. Second paragraph is talking about how they have hijacked their life. Third paragraph is talking about how also the second paragraph talks about this motorist who is trying to sly away their words into the public and making them understand ki what, the roads are for us only, you guys please take care of yourselves. Okay, so this thought needs to be there. Okay, now local police, now this is the 5th paragraph, we'll read this one. Okay, let me take the pen, I think this will help. Yeah, local police tended to blame motorists for pedestrian traffic casualties with their traditional mission on defending customs and seeking equity. Police were unwilling to abridge pedestrians. Abridge basically, what does the mean? Abridge means कि उनको constrain करना या उनको रोकना, ठीक है? तो what this line is saying, police were unwilling to abridge pedestrians' right to the free use of city street. New York police magistrate Bruce Cobb in 19 defended the legal right to the highway of the foot passenger, arguing that if pedestrians were at their peril confined to the street corner or certain designated crossings, it might tend to give selfish drivers too great a sense of proprietorship in the highway. He assigned the responsibility for the safety of the pedestrians, even one who darts obliquely across crowded thoroughfare, to drivers. Okay, a complicated line, you don't need to understand every part of it, but let's go ahead. To drivers. Okay, most American police would have agreed to the Ontario authorities about who regarded pedestrians as a victim of unfortunate attitude of mind which belonged to some driver and which assumed the pedestrian should get out of their way of the vehicle. Okay, now this is a very interesting point. Okay, however, this point also talks about how the authorities were thinking, or the police authorities were thinking about the situation, that these pedestrians were actually at fault, rather they were at this at the point of getting उनके साथ गलत हो रहा था. They were at the verge of some, I don't have words. That's a bad thing, right? Anyways, so we'll read the 6th paragraph now, and I think this is the last paragraph that we will read, because I don't think there's any need for me to go all the way. Police and judicial authorities recognize pedestrians' traditional right to the street, and the streets of Chicago belong to the city. One judge explained, let me take my pencil back. One judge explained not to the automobilists Some even defended children right to the roadway instead of urging parents to keep their children out of the street. Philadelphia judge attacked motorists for usurping children right to them. He lectured driver in his courtroom. It won't be long before the children won't have any rights at all in the street. He complained as the usurper, the motorist, not the child, should be restricted. Something drastic must be done to end this menace to pedestrian and children in particular. So basically, again, these guys are bashing. So the authorities are constantly bashing. If if there is one thing that I would want to take away from this paragraph is that the authorities are constantly bashing these motorists. Okay, that's one thing. So fine, let's see if I have anything. So I will not read anymore. I'll just go to the last line to see what things are. For American ideal political and economic freedom, motordom fashioned the rhetorical lever it needed. The rhetorical lever it needed. Okay, so I think you all know what a lever is, right? So we don't really need to explain a lever. The struggle was difficult and sometimes fierce. In motordom's way were street railways, city people afraid for the safety of their children in the street, and most established traffic engineering principles of the 1920 motordom, however, had effective rhetorical weapons growing in the national organization. A favorable political climate, substantial wealth, and a sympathy of growing minority of city motorists in 1930 with these asset motordom had redefined the city street. In the new model, some users were unquestioned legitimacy, notably the pedestrians were restricted, traffic engineers no longer burden motorist congestion. On this basis, the following of the 4 decades, the city was transformed into accommodate automobiles. Okay, so probably if you look back and I think we should have completed the entire passage. Otherwise, this last 2 lines wouldn't have made sense, because the last paragraph, what it says, I'll read it out again for you. In the new model, some users of once unquestioned legitimacy, notably pedestrians, were restricted. Okay, so unquestioned legitimacy was some users of unquestioned legitimacy. We are referring to the pedestrians. Okay, written also were restricted. So this unquestioned legitimacy was restricted, and traffic engineers no longer burden motorists with responsibility for congestion. Their goal now was to ease the flow of the motor vehicle, either by restricting other users by rebuilding city thoroughfare for cars. New urban roads were treated as consumer commodities, bought and paid for by their users, and to be supplied as demanded. On the basis of over following 4 decades, the city was transformed as to accommodate automobiles. So I think this is fairly one of those essays which it particularly bashed the motorist. It particularly bashed the idea that it's not only about the I really thought, and wait a second, I really thought for a while that they will talk about the maybe about the other end of the spectrum, which is the motorists, but they are actually talking about because if we give them this type of authority, maybe they'll go reckless, so we have to check have a check on them. So that is probably the crux of the passage, and a good interesting read. I don't think we needed any understanding of this passage. Anyways, thank you very much for listening so far. It's 23 minutes. I'll just keep it at that. So an interesting read. If you liked the video, you can always like, share, subscribe, and do the the necessary. Thank you.